We ought to begin by trying to clear up some confusion. How does air pooler work, and how valid is the analogy between airpool, drawing a comparison between airpool and Uber?
Great. Good morning, and thanks for having me. Airpooler is an online service that I think, as you said, lets private pilots of light planes, these are basically piston engine, propeller-driven Cessnas, Pipers, and the like, who've got empty seats, find people who want to go to the same places in exchange for chipping in for the gas costs. And for pilots, this is a great thing because it allows them to shave some of the costs and make flying affordable. And for everyday travelers, it's a great new way to get around and a great, affordable, easily accessible introduction to the world of general aviation.
So it is kind of like Uber.
Yeah, one important distinction. Uber, Lyft, and the like, the drivers are actually making a profit. This is a business for them. The federal rules do not allow private pilots to, earn. Traditionally, they've not been able to earn money, make a profit. So this is pure pro rata cost sharing. It is essentially a pure sharing economy endeavor.
Okay, so it's a sharing economy endeavor, but this is also flying private. And what you need for these things, such as Airbnb and Uber, to work is a critical, critical mass of demand for the logarithms to actually function. The people, though, who fly private are the 1%. Does the sharing economy really apply to flying private?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. So in the past, people have tried to apply this to the world of jets, which is charitably maybe the top 0.05 of 1% of the population. And generally, private jets run about $5,000 an hour and up to operate. These sorts of planes run anywhere from $120 to $250 an hour to operate. So it's a very different market, a very different universe. And most of the pilots who fly these planes, this is a hobby for them, a recreational hobby. And so the price point and the affordability is really radically, extremely different than the world of jets.
Steve, the way you describe it, I'm having trouble understanding what the FAA's issue with Airpooler and other companies like it is. Help us understand.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So private pilots have always loved ride sharing. It's just a great way to shave the costs, all the more so in recent years where the increase in the price of gas has forced most pilots to cut back dramatically on their flying time.
Right.
And traditionally, the FAA has considered the expenses when your passengers chip in for gas not to be compensation. And that's a critical point because it means that private pilots are not a commercial enterprise, and they have not had to obtain a commercial operation license or certificate to carry passengers. The only thing that's changed is the internet and modern sharing economy technology, which makes it much, much easier for all concerned to ride share. But now the FAA has come out and said, well, the shared expenses are a form of compensation to pilots, and therefore means that pilots seems to imply that pilots need to get what's called a Part 119 operating certificate, essentially as a commercial for-profit air carrier. And that's a very onerous process that no private pilot would be able to undertake.
Steve, forgive me for sounding facetious, but did you not hire enough lawyers to figure that out beforehand? And more importantly, what do you do about it now?
Yeah, so actually our attorney ran the FAA's legal office for regulations until about a year ago. So we actually think our attorney is arguably one of the best positioned people on the face of the planet to understand the law on this. And in fact, for decades, the FAA said repeatedly that the expense sharing is not compensation. What they did now, we just went back and said, look, please clarify this because there is consternation among the pilot community. Pilots, want to be sure that want to be comfortable that they're, complying with the regulations. So in order to reverse itself, the FAA had to go back to the preamble to a draft 1963 law to find a citation that that would determine that the expense sharing is compensation. And they didn't mention in the letter that the following year, when that law was actually adopted, the agency entirely reversed itself on that. And ever since then, it has been telling folks that that expense sharing is not compensation. So, based on the historical record, the statutes, and all of the legal interpretations from the FAA, and the best legal advice we think anyone can find, our expectation was that, since nothing has changed except the technology, that that our expectation was that this would be fully compliant with the regulations.
Okay, so right now you're grounded. You're hoping that your lawyers who previously worked for the FAA can sort this out. What are your plans further on from there? Are you going to lobby to have the regulations changed? Could you foresee your pilots getting these certificates, even though you described the process as onerous? And what is in this for Airpooler? If the pilots aren't making any money, how much are you making?
So that's a great question. A couple of things. We launched this out on the West Coast in April, and the response was tremendous from pilots and the general public. We've had over 5,000 people sign up. And so there's a tremendous demand for this out there. We're doing two things. We've developed an alternative version of our product that we believe will comply with the existing regulations. We've stress tested with our member pilots, and the feedback has been extremely positive. But secondly, we think that the industry as a whole, looking beyond Airpooler, now needs clarification from the FAA, because there is tremendous confusion out there at this point based on the FAA's recent letter to us. And we would like to go back and have a constructive dialogue with the FAA, and we've been in touch with the Airplane Manufacturers Association, the Congressional General Aviation caucuses in the Senate and the House, and there's a tremendous support for constructive dialogue with the FAA so that the entire industry can benefit. General aviation is in a really critical